Welcome to the Wealthy Entrepreneur Podcast. Join me today as I have a conversation with Kathyrn from J-Curve Agency and Access XL about accessibility and how her own journey has launched a business that will change website accessibility for millions. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are today. Welcome to the Wealthy Entrepreneur Podcast. I am honored today to have Kathyrn. She is from Access XL and J-Curve Agency, has an absolutely amazing story. And so again, honored to have you here today. So thank you, Kathyrn.
Thank you. I'm so honored to be here.
Yes. You know, when I read your story, and again, when you read someone's story, you read a small piece of it. But when I read your story, I just instantly connected to your journey, to where you are today, and thought we need to share this. We need to share and inspire. And you guys will see, because there's quite a few messages in Kathyrn's repertoire of her journey. But what I would first love to do is I would love, Kathyrn, for you to just talk about J-Curve Agency and Access XL, just so we have a little bit of context leading into the journey.
The agency is a marketing agency where we primarily focus on growth through organic means. And that means content marketing, social media, things like that. That was a way of taking my freelance business, my solopreneur business, and turning it, just start growing it. And so all the things that I've done for the past 15, 20 years, we help any organization. They can be pretty much anything but e-commerce. We help them drive growth. More recently, I realized that accessibility is something that we need to be focusing on. It's becoming more and more of a priority, and it touches me very personally. So just recently, we started releasing a widget that people can put on their websites to instantly improve accessibility. And this is not something you actually have to work on. You just put the widget on your website. Visitors can come in, click the button, and adjust the way they perceive the page and adjust the way they operate it on their own. And
so I would love to, and I'm sorry to cut you off there,
yeah.
But accessibility.
Yes.
So until I read it and read your bio, I would not have understood what you meant by accessibility, because I would think, well, Wi-Fi strength, like honestly, that's what I would think. So I would love for you to share a little bit, like, what is accessibility? Because I'm going to think I'm not an anomaly here, that many of us have not really spent time thinking about that.
Accessibility is about anybody's ability to come onto your website and perceive it, operate it, understand it, and engage with whatever means they use. And we use perceivable rather than visible, simply because what if they're blind? What if they're deaf? They have obstacles that they have to overcome to engage with your website. And if we don't do our part and optimize the page for those disabilities, they can't access anything that we publish. That's what accessibility is all about.
Yes. And again, thank you for just clarifying it a little bit more, because it's obvious once you know, but it is, again, I was like, accessibility, Wi-Fi strength, like, and shameful. And when we were having a conversation prior to popping on the podcast together, I was sharing that there's a lack of knowledge on accessibility for online platforms. We are all quite aware, and I would say also respectful, in the sense that there are people who need to access things in our surroundings in multiple ways. We know that, we need to have ramps for people who cannot, the mobility is a challenge on elevators or escalators. There's, oh my goodness, I would probably braille. Thank you.
Yes.
But we know this, but it's not something that I have thought about. And when I was sharing with you, I thought, okay, there's the respectfulness of it, but there's also a giant market of people that are just as capable to grow and expand and require the knowledge that we are not accessing.
I 100% agree with this. And I'm so glad you mentioned it, because there's this entire market of people who might be wanting to engage with your content, buy your products, all of this. And if they can't operate your website, they can't buy from you. So
Yes.
it immediately hits your bottom line to be more accessible.
Yes, it absolutely does. And again, there's of course the respectfulness of being able to engage with a variety of people. We are all here to, you know, reach our own personal growth and successes, but also you're missing it.
And I break it down into 3 steps. If you are ready to get, or if you catch this message and you're ready to start with accessibility, it starts with awareness. You
Yes.
have to be more aware that this is even a problem out there. The next, what you were touching on, is empathy. We have to appreciate what they're going through, because if we don't, we won't do the 3rd step, which is to take action. And it's not that much action. That's the thing.
Well, and that's what I just heard from you. It sounds like it's literally just like a widget or something that goes in the back end that can actually solve the problem. It's not about us having to learn something, another language, or learning again how to read or sign, or no, it's just implementing a tool that you've created.
Yes, and I will, with one caveat, I do want to
Yes.
mention this. The widget will not make you fully compliant. And so it is important. I think the widget is a great place to start, because it shows good faith that I care and I'm trying to do this for you. But if you have videos that don't have captions, they're not accessible. If you have images that don't have alt tags, they're not accessible. So there are some things you need to learn, but I just created kind of a cheat sheet for myself. I'm going to create some training on this. And I realized it's not that big of a difference from what I've already been doing anyway. So just a few tweaks to that workflow and you're there.
Yes. And those are the things, right? It's a few tweaks. And like you said, it's starting somewhere. And that's what's really important. And as you gain knowledge, you gain more of a personal expertise on the things you can do in the future. Like you said, captions, like you said, alt text on images, different things that sometimes I might do. And sometimes I'm like, yeah, but it was never with the mindset of who it's impacting when I didn't spend the extra 5 minutes.
Right. For years, I've done all of these little things, these little tweaks I've done for SEO or for conversion rate optimization. Now I realize, oh, the reason it was even implemented was for accessibility. So it's just that shift in the way we think.
Yes, no. And again, we will circle back to it, but what really again spoke to me also is where you are today. But like everything, there's a journey to getting there. Something that kind of made me giggle is, oh, I wish I got there 10 years ago. But we have to go through our journey to be made aware of certain things that hold value.
That's so true. And if we haven't experienced it firsthand, we're very rarely aware of it.
Yes. So when I first read your story, what really triggered me in a very passionate and compassionate way was, you know, I've launched many times. So with that, I've launched many times. The message behind that is I'll use it very loosely, but like failed many times. Everyone's scared of that word failure, but failure means you've tried and you grow from. The only thing that's truly stops you is stopping. And listening to that and your honesty and being like, hey, I've launched means that you have learned things along the way that have also brought you to where you are today. But again, within there's a far greater story, which I'd love to give you the floor on, because it sounds to me that, again, what you have created today has been from many challenges, but things that you've also risen from.
It's always hard to know where to start on the journey. So I guess I'll start with 10 years ago with my 3rd launch of my business.
Okay.
No, I guess this was my 2nd launch. Pardon me.
Okay.
So the first launch actually had been about 7 years earlier, and I was brand new to copywriting and brand new to solopreneurship. So I had launched a business, and of course I had no idea where to find clients. I just had this skill that I could sell. And so I used all of the materials that I had built to try to sell my business, and I used it to get a job in a marketing department. Well, I was 3.5 years there, built a portfolio, skills. I now knew how to talk about what I did, and better still, I knew where to find clients. So that's the background to launch number 2. So
can I just say though, because when I read your, I mean, it's not really a bio, but a bit of a story, bit of a bio. It said launch 1, belly flop. And I was like, thank you. Thank you.
It was terrible. Yeah.
We've been there. And so much of what I do in helping people restructure their business to really build a lifestyle that's aligned with the life, right? We're all taught how to build a life, but we're not taught to really connect to the lifestyle we want to lead.
Oh, that's brilliant, because you're right. I mean, we're just pursuing whatever the goal is. Maybe it's usually money.
Yes.
But if we get too deep into that, we just lose sight of everything else.
And we're never experiencing the whole purpose for us to go into a certain industry or career path. And, you know, the lawyers and doctors, again, this is with no disrespect whatsoever, amazing professions. But when I was growing up, it's like lawyers and doctors, like, woo, pinnacle, right? And again, with great respect, you are in that industry with no lifestyle.
Correct.
You're with no lifestyle. So it really got me thinking with my own children. It was, do I want them to pursue this or this?
Oh, I like the way you
and
do
actually
that.
for I did a bit of a hand signal there for the audio people, but pursue like the top, the perceived top, or the outreach of how you want to live the lifestyle. And there is actually, you can have both.
You can, and you should.
Good. Thank you. Thank you.
This, you know, we're not just after money. And honestly, if you're just after money, you won't succeed as well.
Anyway, no matter what it is.
People hire you to help them succeed. So if you make that your priority, you're much more likely to get those clients and keep them. So hard lessons learned over the years.
Yes. And so going back again, you were kind of leading into launch 2. But again, the belly flop spoke to me because it's okay to belly flop.
It is. There was, and again, I used all the resources that I created for that launch, got me a job as a senior copywriter. So you can, everything is going to benefit you in one way or another. Every experience will come back around and help you. So launch number 2. I had just left my job. I had the portfolio. I had everything I needed. So I created my website, my blog. I was marketing. Oh, actually, I'll tell you this story. My first day at launch number 2, sitting at the desk, and I'm thinking, what do I do? And I was like, okay, I'll tell you what I'll do. Whatever I did for my job, I'll do for me. And so that's how I proceeded. And I knew copywriting and I knew content marketing. So that's how I started. And instead of promoting somebody else, I was just promoting me, and it worked. So I started getting clients, was doing very well. But that first year, we were in a car accident and one thing led to another. And I ended up partially paralyzed from the waist down. This was pretty much the anniversary of my of having started launch 2. Was when I went into surgery and I came out. They said, you likely will never walk again. But you don't tell me no. So I was determined this was going to happen. I just wasn't.
So your entrepreneurial spirit came out in your healing journey.
Oh, it did. Yes. And again, going broad instead of deep. You know, at this point, lifestyle became a huge priority, because if I didn't put time and energy into healing, I wasn't going to be able to continue my business anyway. So those first few, I actually spent 4 years bedbound and 3 years homebound. I still am not full capacity, we shall say. what I can do is I finally broke down and got myself a wheelchair because I can't stand and walk for very long. I can navigate my house, no problem. But if I try to go to the mall, I can't go the length of the mall. So a wheelchair helps. But those first years working from bed, fortunately, I can touch type. So I would have my husband or my son would bring in my laptop and set it up beside me. I would put the keyboard on my lap and type that way because I was perfectly prone. I couldn't even sit up in bed at that point because I had so much swelling in my spinal cord. We had to get that swelling down to the point that I could start sitting up and moving a little bit more. But I ended up having 4 stem cell treatments, having to leave the country to get those, and
Sure.
lots of therapy, lots of just hard work to get back to where I could be mobile again. And that was the hardest part of that. But I
Well,
wasn't
and
going to let it hold me back.
no, and just really hearing that, and it's like the almost 1-year anniversary of the second launch into solopreneurship, and really, we can feel in those moments I'm kind of getting it all together to be, I mean, literally wiped out.
Yes. I always feel like I'm starting from zero.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
oh, good grief, I have to go back and start over again. But again, it builds strength, it builds character, and every experience feeds the next thing you do.
It does.
So that's kind of brings us to what I'm doing right now. It was about 2 years ago. I felt like I needed to get the agency. It needed to stop being a solopreneur thing and turn into an agency. So I took it off of my name and gave it the name J Curve Agency, because that's what we do. We help you drive growth.
Yes.
But more recently, AI and all these other things, they are hitting content marketers so badly that it was like, okay, we need to regroup. We need to look at what else we can do besides just writing and SEO and things like that. So again, these are those moments where you have to rethink that it's not a failure, but the market has changed.
And the market is always going to change.
Yes.
It's always going to change. I look at things like that as we're climbing a mountain. And if you were physically and actually climbing a mountain, you're not going straight to the top. You are going to base camps. So every time there's like a reassessment, I call them base camps, because at a base camp, we may have planned the climb to the top, but base camps are for reassessing. Is the route I was taking still the best route? Have I packed appropriately? Do I have what I need? Is the weather clear? It's literally and metaphorically reassessing at base camp. So when we go from a launch 1 to a launch 100, as we climb, we see things clearer. As we climb, we're given an opportunity to reassess our journey. I want to really hear so much about XSXL, but I want to go back a little bit, because what you went through, that's not a brush through. That is, again, there's one thing to launch once and perceive yourself as a failure and be left behind. There's another thing to step back in, and circumstance or situation literally pulls it away from you. I talk a lot about situations and stories. Situations happen to us. Situations, for the most part, are out of our control. Sometimes they're a result of certain decisions, but situations are, it's like rear-ended. It's a spouse walking out that you didn't see coming. It's an illness. Situations happen. We don't have very much control, but the story we control. It's why 2 people can experience the same thing. One thrives in the success of a trauma, and one can fall very hard. I would love to hear more about that for you, because you were dealt a very difficult situation, very difficult. That's putting it mildly. But you told a story of just even getting your computer to your bed.
That is true. Yeah. And I agree with you. I mean, it would have been so easy to just fold my arms and go, woe is me. I will, I lost everything.
Yes.
But I tell you what, the way I approach things like that is, first of all, you can do anything you want. You just have to find a way to do it. So you
Thank
have to
you.
keep that in mind.
Say that one more time.
There is nothing you can't do. You just have to find a way to do it.
Yes, that's it, right? There is really nothing that any of us can't do, but it's about finding a way. And that's where I wanted to, again, acknowledge that in what you did and make sure that the listeners are really hearing that, because we all have situations, but we all hold the pen to our own story.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
today, as a result of, but not a result of, again, it could have gone both directions.
Mm. I will say that when bad things happen to you, yes, they will. And I mean, they happen to all of us.
Mhm.
Be very careful who you allow into your space, who you
Mhm.
allow to speak into it. And I say this from this particular experience of being flat on my back and people meaning well, but coming to visit me and acting like I was about to die, or saying, "Ooh, they must be punishing you for something," like as if the
Is a
universe,
result, yeah.
yeah, as if I did anything to precipitate that.
Mm.
Be very careful not to allow those kinds of voices into your head. You control your thought process, you control your energy and how you feel about everything. And I was that first 6 months, it was the 6 month point. I had read that whatever you don't regain at 6 months, you will never regain. And I had 2 weeks of, I just let myself be sad there because I had regained nothing at 6 months.
Mm.
And at the end of those 2 weeks, I was like, okay, I'm tired of being sad.
Yeah.
At this point, I need to figure out what I can do to be happy from bed, because at that, I had no idea I would ever get out of bed at that point. I had a sliding glass window beside me, and I love nature. I love seeing the sky and the trees and the grass. And so I just had a view of my patio, and that was it. I had a window on the other side, but it was just, a tree trunk over there.
Okay.
I made sure that I put screensavers on my phone that were beautiful nature pictures, things that made me happy to look at. And
Mm.
I just looked for, what can I do in this moment to make sure I stay positive instead of wallowing in what's happened? And that makes all the difference.
It really does. And there's so many key messages in what you shared there. The last one just being, and what can I do in this moment? And again, in that particular situation is very much a trauma, but it's also looking at in our businesses, because everything is relevant. If someone is stressed today, it's not a stare and compare of whose stresses or traumas are greater than somebody else's. If you're feeling it, it's real. But what can I do today? What is one small change that I can implement? And for you, if it was changing your screensavers to something that you enjoyed looking at, one inspiration, one thing that makes us happy creates another. So, again, kudos to you on that, because it takes an intentionality.
Intentionality is right. Because as you said, you control your story, but you also control your attitude and your feelings. The
Mm.
world can't make you feel anything unless you accept it.
Yes.
And that's why we have to be intentional about controlling what the energy around us and the thoughts that we have. And so I basically didn't let some people into the room with me.
Well, and that was the other key point that I really took from what you shared, again, is relevant in all areas of our life also, is who are you letting in? Who are you letting in? And especially, yes, when you are healing or going through something, but especially no matter what.
Yes.
They say, and yet it is true, you are the average of the 5 people. So if you don't have 5, choose one. Choose one.
Even one is better than nothing.
Yes, but choose one that is really uplifting and is in alignment and has your best interest and is the kind of person or energy you want to be generating yourself. So
Exactly.
this is just something else that's so key, because we can sit in a place and, they say misery loves company, and it's really easy to stay there, but you had to be aware of who you're surrounding yourself with. And again, I think we can all regularly reflect on, who am I circling around me?
Mhm.
Are they going in the same direction? We are the average health, the average income, the average happiness, the average relationship of the people we hang around with. If you want a healthy marriage, but you're hanging around with all divorced people, the chances are your marriage isn't going to be very healthy.
That's true. That's so
So
true.
we need to
And you're
really,
right. It does apply to your business as well.
it does.
I'm building a team for my
Yeah.
agency, and I'm very protective of the energy in our group. And if someone isn't a good fit, I don't invite them in. And that keeps the energy of the entire agency positive, and it's fun to work together. And
Mm.
we enjoy what we do. We don't wake up Monday going, oh, it's another work day. You
Right.
know,
Yeah. And that's, it also, it's when you've got this heart-driven passion to create something that helps people.
yes.
And then from there, surrounding yourselves with people who also embody that energy of wanting to make a difference. So Access Excel, it's just launching.
Yes.
Have we officially launched? Soft
Yes, it is.
launch?
We built the website about a month ago.
Okay.
So we are just launching.
Amazing. Amazing. So first steps for somebody who's really hearing this again, is like, maybe that first step you make today in your business is accessing a market, a demographic of people
Yes.
that you never thought of. Maybe that's the one thing you do today. And if that is,
Exactly.
what would you say is the first step? I know I'm
The
going to
first step, yes, as I mentioned earlier, it all starts with awareness. So you need to understand what people are having to go through to be able to access your website. And for me, it really came to life. I am using, let's see, w3c.com is a good place to go for learning more about accessibility and about what's required. But of course,
Sorry,
I'm
was it W3C?
the number 3.
Okay, W3C. I will put that on the link there also.
Mhm.
I think that's
And
important.
that's where I've been learning. And there's also a certification course there. So I have my entire team taking this certification right now, so that we will fully understand what people are going through and how we can help. Because if we as the agency know how to do it, we can help you as the client do it. But we have to lead by example, and we have to know what we're talking about.
And like we spoke to earlier in the conversation, things are forever changing.
Yes.
So to align with an agency such as yourself, to lean into the expertise, because bandwidth is often minimal for many people, but to connect with agencies who are experts in certain areas doesn't just take that off your plate. It actually helps your growth catapult forward. So I think it's incredibly important to recognize. To connect with you, how would they do that?
They can reach us at accessexcel.com or at jcurveagency.com. And both emails are Kathyrn at the URL.
Perfect. Well, I am going to put all that information below, because I think it is very important that not just we start implementing changes into our businesses. And I mean, big corporations should absolutely, they should be already doing it. I am going to challenge that most are not. But as solopreneurs and entrepreneurs, it's really looking at what are the things that I can do to be that conscious business owner, but also again, it's a demographic of people that need your help, need my help, need her help.
Exactly.
And to do that, we need to be able to speak to that person. So I really, again, have got great respect for what you're doing. I thank you so much for sharing your journey and sharing that it's not a straight line from launch to end. I will just say something. What really spoke to me when I first connected with you, you said, I no longer wanted to be trading freedom for a paycheck.
Mhm.
And I always say you don't want to be trading time for money, but I might change my lingo to trading freedom for a paycheck, because it's really what it is. And it's about understanding that we all have a gift. We all have just the ability and the right to create a lifestyle that is aligned with how we want to live.
100%. I couldn't agree with you more.
Well, Kathyrn, thank you so much. It has been an honor to speak to you, to share your story. And I thank you so much for your time. And it's time for me to make some changes.
Okay, well, thank you for having me. It was such a pleasure.
Thank you.